Inside the Birds is back. What's up, everybody? It's Geoff, Mosher, and Adam Caplan here to preview a really big game Monday night. Kansas City Chiefs are welcoming the Philadelphia Eagles to Arrowhead Stadium, a matchup of the 8-1 Philadelphia Eagles versus the 7-2 Kansas City Chiefs. Usually Monday night, you get some good matchups. Sometimes you get some okay matchups. Adam, this is a vintage, or at least it's shaping up to be a classic Monday night matchup.
Think about it this way, right? So the game before the bye was one of the most dramatic regular season Eagle games we've seen in I don't know how long.
Yeah.
I just, and obviously the fans that are watching that were there at the game obviously had, like I was saying then, 5 heart attacks. It's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go on the road. Yes, the Eagles had the best road record since the beginning of 2021. Gets the best head coach in NFL history coming out of the bye. And here you are. It's the subplots, the drama, Annie versus Nick. The front offices know each other. Some of the players know each other. The brothers. It's just the Kelsey family. It's just, well, you can't make it up. And we're only in week 11. Oh, by the way, both teams have the best record in the National Football League.
Should I add to the subplots and storylines that each faction has a Swift on its side? DeAndre on one and Taylor on the other.
I mean, I know it's a little different. That I get that. It's Philly's own DeAndre Swift, by the way.
That's right.
Who could be a factor in this game as we talk about this show today. But the bottom line is, it is a Monday night game, and that's the other thing. It's the Monday night game, the last game of the week. I mean, you can't set up any better than this. To be honest with you, if you're an Eagles fan, I think you should be glad they had a bye, because to be able to get up emotionally for 2 games in a row like this is really difficult. It's just hard. And now that they have the bye, and as we get through the show today, they're a lot healthier than they were before the bye. That's a big thing.
Right. Think about both teams, really, right? Because even though the Kansas City's prior game was not against a division rival, it was against the Miami Dolphins, a team that's trying to go neck and neck with them for the top record in the conference. So I think it was good for both. Plus, they were in Germany. And now you come out and it's Monday night, the lights are on, and you had 2 weeks to get ramped back up. And there's a lot to discuss, more so with the Eagles and their health. We're going to get into that. We'll go through the matchup today because there's really some really key matchups here in this game that can determine who wins, who loses. 2, I would say, evenly matched teams. And of course, as you just mentioned, 2 coaches who know each other. And obviously the Eagles have not beaten Andy Reid since he became the Chiefs coach. So a lot on the line here. And I do think it's important. I'll get into this. Forget the Super Bowl angle. I do think it's important that the Eagles get a win over the Chiefs for another reason. And I'll explain it to you why a little later in the show. By the way, we're going to get deep into the weeds in this podcast. Greg Cosell, Clay Harbor got really deep into the weeds with some great All-22 on their show, Inside the Tape, that came out Thursday morning. Check it out. They did a lot of All-22 showing what the Eagles do well, what the Chiefs do well in particular, and explaining the matchups as they always do. And then Monday night, we got Inside the Birds pregame live. That's going to start at 5:00 p.m. So make sure you adjust your listening schedule. It's a night game. We usually do 3 hours before kickoff on the night game. So 5:00 to 7:00 p.m. on our Inside the Birds YouTube and socials. And then we did this last Monday night. Adam and I are going to try to get a Monday morning pod up. It'll be a shorter one with all the injury intel, though I'm sure some guys will get activated and we'll find out a little bit more, because really, as of most people listening to this podcast Friday morning, Adam, the Eagles have only had 1 practice in preparation for the game. So there'll be more injury information. So we'll try to get that Monday morning podcast out just to tie up some loose ends there. And of course, for our Patreon members, we'll have our Flips Script show up at some point, either Friday or Saturday. And I know he's really chomping at the bit to talk about it.
So we're going to get into, because you just mentioned it, I want to know what the heck happened in that Kansas City game in 2017. Was it 2016? 2016, wasn't it? Or was it the first?
2017 when they won the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that the craziness of them passing? Because that's when the players said stop passing it so much.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to know what John's view of that was. I'm very curious. I've never talked to him about that. I'm very curious to ask him. That was just a fascinating situation. And then how they turn things around, obviously the Elliott kick, and I guess John because he's the quarterback's coach. I know he was in the press box. I wondered what his feeling was for that game and the Alshon pass and
Yep.
all the craziness of that season. We're going to go over that in that show. And then, Chuck Pagano, I checked in with him. Chuck said he had to reschedule. We're going to get him on soon, later this month. We're also going to get another head coach on, but this one's from the former head coach of the offensive side of the football, who is a big Jalen Hurts fan, and he has broken down Jalen Hurts big time. And we look forward to talk about him, Hurts, and their Eagles offense with his former head coach.
That is great. Can't wait for that. Obviously, if you want to and we also had a great live stream with some Patreon members the other night. So if you want to get in, it's patreon.com/inside the birds to become a member. And it is worth it between, again, these extra guests that we have with John DiFilippo each week, the chats, the Discord chats, the ITB live streams. We're giving as much content as we can possibly give. Definitely worth it. All right. A lot to talk about. A reminder that Inside the Birds is brought to you by our friends at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. It is the exclusive Jersey Shore resort of Inside the Birds. So we have a first for the Eagles this year, Adam. This is the first time this year that the Eagles are the underdog. They are road dogs, 2.5. They say standard home team advantage is 3. So the fact that it's 2.5, according to our friends at MyBookie.ag, sort of means that they think the Eagles are a little bit better and would win a game on a neutral field. That's what I have to imagine, right? Or because the Chiefs aren't the full 3-point favorite.
Yeah, and I don't know. I've always felt like you did with that, but I'm not sure if the books look at it that way. That it's 3 points for home field. I'm not sure, but
good point.
It's only the total's only 45.5. Like, that's a little low. Now I know it still looks like possibility of rain, and I'm not sure if that is taken into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand the books are finally starting to adjust the over-under totals because we have an historic number of games going under the total. In fact, the Baltimore game, no, excuse me, yeah, the Browns game. I'm sorry, the Browns game against the Steelers. It's 33 is the total. Well, obviously, with Deshaun Watson being out, I could see with Thompson Robinson, the rookie quarterback who didn't play well in the first game, I could see why that's a low total. But anyway, yeah, only 45.5. Yeah, how about that? So that's interesting. We'll see when we have our Monday morning show.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what the updated line is. I'm curious to see if there are any line movements over the weekend.
Yeah, good point. I think that there's probably a combination of things in that. I mean, one is that the Chiefs have the number 2 scoring defense in the league. I mean, they're only averaging about giving up 16 points a game, a little less than that, actually. Eagles aren't bad either, but the Chiefs are very good. And then 2, like you were just mentioning with offense, both the Chiefs and the Eagles are methodical, deliberate offenses this year. They're not really going down the field in 3 to 5 plays and punching it in with 30-yard touchdowns, right? They both
like last year. Yeah.
Right. They're both ball control teams, which takes up a lot of time and sometimes keeps the scoring a little bit low there. So I imagine that, and then coupled with the rain that you mentioned, probably all leads into that total. So that's pretty interesting. All right, a couple of transactions. The big one that we saw coming was inside linebacker Nakobe Dean, who for the second time this year goes on IR with the foot injury. He had the surgery, I believe, so he's going to be out. And we'll see. When you have that severe foot sprain, that Liz Frank sprain, especially at that position, we'll have to see how long he's going to be out, Adam. I think they're hoping that he can come back and get activated into the 21-day window in 4 weeks, but you just have to see how the healing process goes.
Yeah, we're going to have an update on that. Probably our Monday morning show. I don't think we'll wait to the pregame show. We'll probably have something for you on that. But yeah, as of now, as we speak here, early Friday morning, it's going to rain all day in Kansas City. Now, that doesn't have any impact on the game unless it rains during the game. It's one thing that's overrated with weather. Mm-hmm. I don't care if it rains before the game. I don't care if there's 20 feet of 20 inches of rain. As long as it stops before the game, it's good. Right. The clubs have this great draining system.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't worry about that. But, yeah, we'll say we can't get the hour by hour as we speak until game time yet. We're an early Monday morning we can get, so we don't have it as we speak here. We'll update that on Monday morning. But, yeah, that would suck if I don't want rain during the game. I want a good, clean game. I hate when weather.
Yeah, we got to save that for the Giants games. That's when it usually.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't have the really good games have
quagmire game.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously Nick Morrow will start in place in Nakobe Dean. Nick Morrow's at Cunningham, and as of us recording this podcast, Eagles have not made a move at linebacker, but that's part of the reason why we're probably going to do something Monday morning, just in case in the next day or two they make a practice squad signing or do something to address
a workout.
They
Yeah,
really
workouts.
should. Yeah, they really should. All right, so we'll get to the rest of the injuries in a second. I want to take a short break so we can hear from our friends at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
All right. So I thought the Eagles injury report was kind of interesting on Thursday after the first practice. It was a real practice, as you would imagine. It wasn't a walkthrough. They had plenty of time off. But there's Dallas Goedert's name. He didn't practice. Or breaking news. Dallas Goedert, who has a broken arm, did not practice. But interestingly, they started practice. They have not put Dallas Goedert on IR, and they still hadn't activated Quez Watkins into the 21-day practice window. So that hamstring is definitely lingering for him.
Yeah. So with Goddard, I think the way that this is going to go down, if they don't put him on IR by Monday, you could assume that they're not going to do it. Because that means they probably think there's at least an outside possibility that he could play within those first 4 or 5 weeks, or whatever the case may be. That they don't think it's going to be closer to 6 to 7 weeks. That they think it's some shorter term. So there's really, because look, we've talked about this in the history of our show when they've missed on that gamble of either putting the guy on IR or not putting the guy on IR, and all teams go through this. Usually they get it right, but sometimes teams miss a little bit on the timeline. So we'll see what happens. But Calcaterra, the good things, Grant Calcaterra, the second-year tight end from from SMU, with a concussion, practiced decent amount on Thursday. Barring something unforeseen, there's a good chance that he plays. And so it's obviously Stoll, who's a wide tight end. Calcaterra could do both, Y and the move tight end. He's a pretty good athlete, as we know. Albert Okwuegbunam is the number 3 tight end. He most likely will dress as that third guy. The Eagles have done this before. They've dressed 2 tight ends before, which is obviously you're gambling. They shouldn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
But most likely he'll dress. The other good news is Cam Jurgens is really trending towards being activated. It would be a shocker if he's not, to be honest with you. He's practiced a lot on Thursday. So
right.
Offensively, those are the injuries.
Right. And now the Eagles do have an open spot because of Nakobe Dean going on IR, so they can get Cam Jurgens right on to the 53 without making a corresponding move. However, they have some other guys, and Justin Evans really is the guy who is at practice. He hasn't practiced in full yet. We'll see, but the status of him, if they're going to activate him, then somebody else would either have to go on IR if it was Dallas Goedert, or they just they keep Dallas Goedert on the 53 and make a corresponding move with somebody else. Going back to your point on the tight ends, you do wonder now. I mean, they traded a 4th round pick for Alberto?
Was it that much?
A 5th? A 4th?
I'm going to look at it. Go ahead. Keep talking.
No, that sounds a little high, right?
What's ridiculous?
Because he was a 3rd round pick.
No? Okay, on your point. Okay, here's what they did to alleviate the issue.
They traded I'm sorry, they traded
they flipped. Yeah. So they moved up this point. It was so funny. There were so many of these types of trades. Remember, the Broncos were going to cut him.
Right.
So the Broncos traded a 7th and Alberto, and they got a 6th back.
Yeah.
There's so many of those late round flip-flop trades of the 6th and 7th. It's kind of became like an epidemic of this. There's like so many teams copied off each other right before the season or the trade deadline that just happened on October 31st. Pretty
right. So yeah, but so going back to you wonder if Alberto might get a little bit of extra run, or if it's just going to be like the number 3 in just special teams. We'll see. But obviously good news for the Eagles on Cam Jurgens, and you would expect that he'll be starting right guard against the Chiefs for the first time in quite a while. So that's good. And then on the flip side, good news on defense that Bradley Roby, who has been dealing with he actually said it was a pec. They've been calling it a shoulder, but he said it was more of a pec injury, which, as we know, if you had said it's a pec injury to us like 5 or 6 weeks ago, more pec than shoulder, we probably would have told you then he might be out for a little bit longer than just your standard 1 or 2, because pecs are tough. I mean, that's tough. Especially if it's where the pec meets the shoulder. That's
what I was going to bring up. Is you're going to be wearing a harness? That's yeah. And see, and I listened to Sirianni's press conference on Thursday, and obviously we got the transcript.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure, and I don't think he's downplaying it, because now we know that it's pectoral. Yes, he practiced a lot on Thursday. It looks like he's trending towards playing.
Right.
But what they have to watch is, this is why the practice tape is so important. They got to see, is he tentative? Is he wrapping up? I know you're not tackling anyone to the ground, but does he look normal? That's the key here. Just because the guy practices a lot doesn't mean he's going to play. Right. Yes, he's training well, but he's got to look like normal. They got to be careful here. That may be why Sirianni was being straight about it, where people thought he was being coy. Maybe he wasn't being coy, because now you brought this up.
Yeah,
I mean, I could understand that.
Well, they certainly need him, and obviously him being a full participant on Thursday, not later in the waiting later in the week, is good news. We'll see on Justin Evans. He's been activated in the 21-day window. He was before coming in earlier in the week. They did that.
Yes.
And he was a limited participant at Thursday's practice. We'll see if they can ramp him up as the practices go on, and if they'll get ready. That'll be really important for a couple of reasons if he could play, that we'll get into when we get into the matchups. But that's basically it from the Eagles side of injuries. And now we'll get into the Chiefs side in a second. Want to remind everybody about our partners, HelloFresh. It's winter. It's dark early. We're running around. We're scrambling. The holidays are here. Who has time for a home-cooked meal? Not us. That's why we love HelloFresh. They deliver farm-fresh food with pre-proportioned ingredients and seasonal recipes right to our doorstep. No more wasting time at the grocery store, because America's #1 meal kit helps make home cooking easy, efficient, and affordable. We don't have to waste time researching new recipes. We don't have to plan our meals out. With HelloFresh, the shopping's already done. The perfect amount of ingredients arrive with step-by-step recipe cards. You cannot get more efficient than that. Plus, HelloFresh saves you time and money. HelloFresh is 25% less expensive than takeout, so you get a home-cooked meal without digging deep into your wallet. And don't forget about taste and selection. HelloFresh makes food for meat lovers, seafood lovers, vegetarians, and those who love a little bit mix of everything. That's kind of me. I love everything. So go to HelloFresh.com/50Eagles. Use the promo code 50Eagles, one word, 50 Eagles, for 50% off plus free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com/50Eagles. Use the promo code 50Eagles, 50 Eagles, for 50% off plus free shipping. Act now for America's #1 meal kit. All right, Chiefs injuries. The Chiefs are in pretty good shape, man. Even their biggest injury, Adam, which I would have told you several weeks ago was a big injury, which is Nick Bolton, their linebacker, on being out because I think he had wrist surgery.
He did
in October. Yeah, it's pretty rough. He'll be out for a while. I would have told you that's a big loss, right? But their replacement, Drew Tranquill, has played pretty well. I mean, again, maybe it's because he's surrounded by good talent, but he's playing well. It was kind of an afterthought signing, but he's played well.
Bolton's a better player, but Tranquill's a pretty good athlete. And this is talk about stepping into a good backup. That guy started a bunch of years, and the Chargers 34 and the Spags runs are 43. But no, it's a great sign, a good point. That's it. Everyone on the 53-man roster work Thursday. They do expect to have everyone available, other than Bolton, of course, who won't be back till probably mid-December. But yeah, they're in pretty good shape. In fact, physically, they've been one of the least injured teams in the National Football League this season. Under former Eagles head athletic trainer Rick Burkholder, who's running the show for Andy there in Kansas City.
There you go. All right, well, let's get into this matchup because that's it. The other 50, because Nick Bolton's on IR, all 53 of their players are at practice. So, and not out. None of them are out. So that's good health for them as well. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think. In the Super Bowl, they were pretty healthy too. Was there anybody that was out in the Super Bowl for them? No, I think that they had really good health in the Super Bowl.
I don't remember, but I know the Eagles had all of their guys. And that's like impossible today's NFL.
I know, man. Both teams are really healthy.
Yeah, look, and I'm glad. Hopefully, Roby plays. I really do. I want this to be like the Cowboys game was unreal. The Cowboys Eagles game was just ridiculous. The drama. I mean, when I start yelling, Jeff's me, Geoff, and Clay Harbor, we were waiting for the game to end, and I had already signed into Zoom, and I'm like, "This is unbelievable! Are you serious?" Dak decides to go backwards. I mean, come on, you can't make this up.
No, crazy.
Anyway.
All right, so let's talk about the Eagles offense against this Chiefs defense that the Chiefs defense is the show here. Patrick Mahomes gets the headlines, but this year the Chiefs defense is the show. They are the number 2 ranked scoring defense in the NFL, right? Like a hair behind Baltimore, which has by the way, I don't know if you've seen this, but Baltimore's defensive metrics, Adam, like the advanced metrics, EPA and things like that, DVOA, compare to like the 2000 Baltimore Ravens. That's how, up until that Cleveland game, that's how good they have been on defense this year. So for Kansas City to be right under that shows you how good they are. And as you noted last podcast under Steve Spagnuolo, they are going to play. You're going to see most likely, unless they're all of a sudden scared, a decent amount of man defense, man coverage.
Yeah, so they play the 7th highest of man coverage at 32%. Now, again, in today's NFL, if you're above like 28, that's considered a lot. It's just comical. When I started covering the league, it was some teams were well over 50%. Like the Patriots used to be super heavy man coverage in the 2000s, but it changes now. I mean, it changes because of the deep ball and teams wanting to throw over it, over the defense. Teams are playing so much zone, and that's why scoring's down.
Mm-hmm.
So the bottom line is here. It's Sirianni and Brian Johnson, Kevin Patullo, those who put this offense together. Here's the rematch versus the Kansas City front. And those DBs who you were talking about are so good. This is a very young secondary. They execute really well. They don't have any stars, but Janair Steed's very underrated. He's on the Von Evers rookie deal. Trent McDuffie's been a good first-round pick from last season. They're deep at safety. You're going to see number 6, Brian Cook. Again, these guys wearing kicker numbers or quarterback numbers, Brian Cook is allowed to do it. He's wearing number 6.
Mm-hmm.
Those are good size at safety. I'm interested to see what they do here. What's their plan? Because they really have not faced a lot of running quarterbacks, the Chiefs. So I'm very interested to see what they're going to do because Hurts annihilated them in the playoffs, in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
He crushed them. I'm so interested to see what Spags' plan is going to be to try to corral him. And I know they know that Hurts is playing with a banged up left knee. That doesn't mean he won't run. He ran the ball, like 10 times the last game?
Yeah. Yeah, no. And by the way, I think I neglected to mention this in the injuries, but Jalen Hurts did not have the brace on at practice Thursday.
Okay.
And he specifically said the time off has been he didn't, how Jalen Hurts doesn't go into great detail on this stuff, but he said, hey, somebody asked him about it. And he said the time off has been very good. So the fact that he shed the brace, at least for the first practice, and I imagine if you're doing it that and you make it through okay, you'd like to not practice with it moving forward. That is a very good sign that his mobility will be good. You don't worry about his impact because even with the knee injury over the last 3 games, he's been really good, but it would be nice if he could move around a little bit better and uninhibited and doesn't have one of those moments like in Dallas when he got slammed to the ground and he came up limping right before halftime. So there's 2 things that you mentioned that I want to talk about here. One thing to be concerned about and one thing to be encouraged about. The concern, you said that they play 32% man, which is 7th highest in the NFL. It doesn't mean they blitz. A lot of people equate man coverage with blitzing. They don't blitz a lot. They blitz at what they feel is really opportune time. So that'll be something to look for. And what they really do a lot of, Adam, and we sort of talk about this more with Fangio teams, not Spagnuolo teams, but he is doing a lot of late safety rotation and going from 1 high to 2 high to 1 high to 2 high, folding in with his pressures. So that's something Jalen Hurts, I think, has done a pretty good job at, even when they change pre-snap to post-snap. He's just going to have to know that what he sees before the snap is going to change. And Greg and Clay pointed out a play where it changed twice. It changed and then it changed again. So obviously there's a lot of attempt to confuse the quarterback. And of course, that's something that you mentioned, the offensive staff and Jalen Hurts are probably observed throughout the week. And what they need to do, in my opinion, Adam, would be to make sure that they have route concepts that make it easy for Jalen Hurts to get the ball to whether it's DeAndre Swift in the flat or a tight end, something underneath, and not get caught having too many vertical routes and nowhere for Jalen Hurts to throw the ball.
Yeah, whether it's again, it's whatever they come out in, whether it's man beaters or zone beaters, you always have everything in. However they play, they're going to know it because the tape tells you this is what they do game to game. Yeah, in game they'll change it up, but you have your man beaters and your zone beaters. And as John DeFilippo was telling us last week, and we're going to talk to him again today probably about it, John's convinced without Goddard, you got to get DeAndre Swift the ball more. He just thinks like he's such an explosive piece. Remember Duke Johnson?
Yes.
Duke Johnson had a career year under John, maybe 70 plus catches. And he said there's something about a running back in space on linebackers. Just because they're more explosive. And you got to figure it's going to be tough without Goddard. Look, I know they did okay without him last year, but it's just hard. You would love, if they would have had Goddard here, obviously I'd feel much better about it. But not having Goddard, it's going to make it a little bit harder, and they've got to figure out different ways to move the football.
Yeah, those earlier in the year, those two-way goes that they would run with DeAndre Swift from the slot. I mean, those were good opportunities to strike, and then the communication or the timing wasn't great between Jalen Hurts and DeAndre on that. So hopefully at this point of the year, they can have better timing and rhythm there, because that is a play that could really work, especially if the Chiefs bring pressure. So I would be encouraged by what the Eagles could do is because the Chiefs will play press coverage. They are not afraid to play press coverage. They play a lot of press coverage. That's good for them. They're good. They have good physical corners. No doubt about it. Trent McDuffie moves inside in the nickel. He's a physical corner. He's a really good corner, by the way, a guy that the Eagles really liked if they didn't draft Jordan Davis 2 years ago. So that could play into the Eagles' hands, though, right? Because we know A.J. Brown's a very strong physical receiver. And if you're up that much on him and you miss or he hand swipes you and gets past you, that's an opportunity to make some pretty good, big plays down the field.
Yeah, a couple of things. I'm pretty certain, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Avant tell us, because we asked him a couple of years ago about man versus zone, he loved man coverage. If I and I'll ask Jason Monday night,
ask him that. Yeah, I can't remember.
Certain about that. Yeah, pretty certain of that. Because obviously he was well built. He could get off press.
Yes.
I'm interested to see do they double AJ Brown? Because as Greg told us, teams are doubling very little. So what's Spags' plan? Because then if you double him, Skinny Batman's going to get open who could run. And he's a great phenomenal route runner. Now, the question is, without Goddard, I know it's hard to know this because we don't have a large sample size and this is a new year. But is there, Julio Jones now? He's new to the group, right? Zacchaeus, I know he's barely done anything, but these guys could play. I mean, Zacchaeus was a former starter for the Falcons.
Right.
What inclusion do they have in the offense going forward here without him? And then you mentioned Albert O. Guy's an athlete. I know he don't block very well, but the guy can run. So the coaches now, and it's good that they had the bye, they now know for a while they're not going to have Goddard. This is their first game doing it. I know it's going to be a challenge, but it's not like they don't have a lot of quality pass targets. That's the thing. It's not like they're devoid.
Right. No, they've got plenty. I mean, they should be able to make it work. And I do agree with you. I think, especially if they're going to press, that maybe Devontae Smith is the guy that could see some pretty big gains down the field, as you'll probably get L'Jarius Sneed, who's a good corner, matched up a lot against A.J. Brown. We'll talk about that with Greg and Jason Moore on the pregame show. You did note that the Chiefs have done pretty well. They've only given up 2 touchdown passes to running backs this year. But, DeAndre Swift is a different type of guy. Yep. So I think that they can make some gain there, especially if they target him. The screen game might be good this week, especially against an aggressive defense. And the other thing that sticks out to me before we move on to defense is that the Chiefs move their defensive linemen around a lot. Chris Jones plays tackle and end. Karlaftis will line up at end and then sometimes move inside and nickel. Omenahu, who came over from the 49ers, Charles Omenahu they're very good. They're talented. But they do move around a lot, right? So obviously you move around to get advantageous pass rush matchups. So if the Eagles are facing 3rd and 5, even 3rd and 6, they're not afraid to run the ball in those situations. And if they can catch times where they see Karlaftis inside and he's a little bit smaller, right? That might be a good opportunity for them on 3rd down to be able to spring some pretty good runs and at least set up a very 4th and short, or just to pop a nice run up the middle on 3rd down or even 2nd and long. So I would look for the Eagles to try to run sometimes in passing situations if the Chiefs If the Chiefs are aligned in those kind of like, whether it's wide 9 or those those positions where they're trying to get upfield quickly.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I know there have been a couple times you're like, what the hell were they? It might have been a 3rd and 11, whatever the case may be, where you go, why are they running? Now they've hit them. They've actually got them right over the last couple of years. And it's always a tough call. But getting Juergens back, man, he's playing such a high level. I'm a little surprised. In fact, I remember Flip said, that's when John said 51. I forget what game it was. He's like 51 kicked afts today, whatever.
Yeah.
That hurt. That was Juergens. So if he comes, and the numbers have regressed. I don't care what Sirianni says. This is one area I'm going to disagree with him. We all know the Eagles' run game has not been as good. I mean, come on. Without Juergens, we know. But bottom line is, getting Juergens back's huge. This is a good look. The Chiefs have a very good defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
This is the trenches matchup here. And the Eagles have the NFL's best offensive line. This is going to be good.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it. This has to be an offensive line game for the Eagles. This cannot be an offensive line wasn't at its best, like the Jets. Like they're really going to have to block up this defensive front, because one thing that the Chiefs do is, if you slide protection to Chris Jones's side, that leaves your backside protection like one-on-ones. They'll send an extra rusher from that side to create like a 3-on-2 and try to get a free guy in. So Spags is good. I mean, he's a really good defensive coordinator, and he actually has the most amount of talent since he came over there now, and he's doing a lot with it. So got to watch out for that. Definitely got to be an offensive line game.
Great.
All right, we'll move into the Eagles defense against this Chiefs offense in a second. Got to tell you, skip the arguments. Thanksgiving's coming up. Skip the arguments with your uncle on Thanksgiving and focus on what really matters. Good food, boosted odds, and hitting those Turkey Day parlays. Picture this, not just watching games, but turning every second into a potential win. Well, with MyBookie, you can stream the games and live bet them and turn any game day into a payday. Are you ready to up your game? Sign up today and make your first deposit with promo code THEBIRDS for a sweet deposit bonus up to $1,000. That's promo code THEBIRDS, one word, to claim your bonus. And this isn't just a promo code. It's a secret weapon to get the extra edge on the house. The best part is you don't need to be a sports whiz to win at MyBookie. You can cash in on everything from politics to your favorite shows and then some. Remember, bet anything, anytime, and anywhere only with MyBookie. All right. Well, the Eagles, we're getting used to saying this, although it seemed like a year ago at this time it would have been crazy to say it, but the Eagles play a decent amount of man coverage too.
I know. Yeah, they're actually 8th in National Football League. They're at 31%. Yeah, just again, these stats are crazy how close they are. Yeah, their man coverage is up over Gannon. It's interesting. And despite credit to Desai, despite James Bradbury's regression, Gannon was so, like, I get it. And if Gannon's first year, when he had Steven Nelson, he's like, I can't, I got to protect him. I can't. He made it. Look, he was just like, okay, go ahead and throw it against us. We're just going to try to stop you in the red zone. And I know Desai's running his version of Fangio, but he's not running full Fangio. He's doing, as we're told, a bunch of things, and he's just not going to sit. Yes, they're getting torched in the back end. There's no question. The pass rush, by the way, is not as good as last year. That's a fact. Not just the numbers; the tape shows it.
Right.
They have some good games. They have good rush. Sometimes they don't. But you've got the oldest secondary in the National Football League. It is showing, and that to me is something that would worry me. I know the Chiefs' pass game has not been great this season. That's not going to stop Matt Nagy and Andy Reid from trying to exploit it.
No, I kind of feel for Sean Desai because, like the Eagles for 2 years under Gannon would just beg for Gannon just to play a little bit more man, play a little bit more, like you're 3rd and long, but your quarterbacks are still picking you apart because they know where the voids in your zone are going to be, and they have good players. And now here comes Sean Desai, and he's playing 30% man, 31, as you said. And it's like, great. But now it's like, dude, you've got Sidney Brown in the slot or Eli Ricks in the slot on CeeDee Lamb. Can you not play man defense? It's like, it's hard for him to find that happy medium when he's been so restricted by the personnel. I'm glad that he didn't just say, I've got backups, so I'm just going to go all zone, because that could have been just as bad. But he had to pay the price at the same time for playing man coverage on really good receivers last few weeks with personnel that shouldn't be playing man coverage. So it's been hard for him to find the balance. But now hopefully with Bradley Roby back and maybe even Justin Evans, Adam, he might even be able to play a little big nickel with a coverage safety or dime if you want to get Ricks and Bradley Roby on the field as your interior. You may have the ability to do that now.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. They actually could scheme, like actually plan. They've not been able to do anything like this since Maddox got hurt. I mean, this Maddox injury, who knew it would impact their defense in the back end so badly. And look, again, Bradbury, he's got to play better. It's not a coaching issue. Obviously, he seems to have lost a step. We'll talk to Avant and Cosell Monday Night Show, see what they think. What's the problem? Is it a movement thing? Is he just not reacting well? What's the issue? I want to know what the issue is. If there's anything they could tell from the coach's tape, is it just reaction? He just doesn't have the instincts anymore. What's the problem? I mean, he just turned 30 in August. But as Greg said, it was one of the last couple of shows on our pregame shows. You never know when a guy's going to lose it. There's no way to predict it.
Right.
And it's not looking good. It's not like, look, it's not like they have their replacement on the roster. So this is who you have. You got to go with it, and you got to try your best. And as you said, hopefully Roby's back. They could do some certain things. Now, Mahomes, let's get into the weeds here.
Yeah.
They have a deep receiver core, but there's clearly a mistrust here in terms of Sky Moore, who had a really good offseason. It's been a non-factor. Tony's been a non-factor. Kadarius Toney. Andy Reid didn't mention. I know he put it out there because he wants to try to protect the player. You know he's going to do that. Tony had knee surgery in the offseason. Whatever the case may be, it's Kelsey is their guy. Obviously, we'd all know that. And Rashee Rice has been a great second-round pick. I mean, he's a little strong to say great, but a pretty good second-round pick. Penn's Justin Watson's their shot play guy, and that's it.
Yeah.
MVS, Valdez-Scantling, every once in a while gets a shot play, but they just, for whatever reason, it's not happening with Mahomes and Sky Moore, and Mahomes is Tony. And I get it. In the Super Bowl, we saw it happen, and anything could happen. But the good thing is their pass game has definitely regressed. I know at any time it could explode. I get that. And obviously what's going with Bradbury and the Eagles back end, they're going to try to exploit it. We know it's coming.
Right.
So we'll see what happens if they can protect him. Now, the other thing is, and I'm so curious to see if they do this, seeing every snap from the Chiefs this season, the thing that is so annoying, Mahomes may be the best scrambling quarterback in the National Football League. It's even better this season for him because he's not throwing it, and he sees a void and space, and he finds it. And you'll see him run to the sideline and hold the football out to try to get extra yards. It's such a back-breaking play for defenses. You think you got him, you're in great coverage, and he sees a void to run to. He's unbelievable at it, and that's the thing. Are they going to spy him? Like, are they going to do anything special? We'll have to see. We'll talk again more about this on Monday night, and also in our mini show on Monday morning, we're going to check into this and we'll get some more opinions. But that's the thing that even if you play great coverage against him, he could break your back with a scramble.
Yeah, I mean there are two quarterback pass catcher combos in the NFL that are almost, I would say their offense almost is that. Like that's the back-breaking part of their offense, and that would be Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. I mean, those are the two quarterbacks that jump out the most, that make so many second reaction plays with each other that it becomes not just like our offense broke down and this is our second reaction play. That's like their offense.
I know.
It's like 50% of their offense.
If you remember Tyreek Hill and Mahomes with the scramble drill, and now we see it with Kelce. In fact, I think Avant said when I think it was, I know it's Jason, I think it was leading up to the Super Bowl, that Kelce freelances a lot. I know there are a lot of option routes built in, but I think Jason said how he seems to freelance, but obviously he gets open. He's unbelievable. And maybe Q brought that up too.
Yeah.
On the Q&A show. But the bottom line is Kelce's unbelievable. He's going to be Hall of Famer to Hall of Famer. It's pretty remarkable. As you said, and it's so key. If they can get even Justin Evans, who's a decent coverage safety. Now, as you pointed out before, Zach Cunningham is not a good coverage linebacker, but he's improved in it. He hasn't been killed yet in coverage. But yeah, I say that they've also given up a ton of production on the heat map in the middle. The middle of the field, they've gotten crushed. You saw what CeeDee Lamb embarrassed them. So that's coming. So it's going to be tough. But again, getting these healthy guys back, and Eagles are number one run defense in terms of giving up yardage.
Right.
They're great at it, but the Eagles are ranked 32nd against the pass.
Especially, they also are ranked last against defending the tight end, a 130 passer rating against the tight end when the tight end is targeted against the
bad. Yeah, and they're 11th worst in the National Football League in total production in terms of yardage and touchdowns.
All right.
They haven't had a lot of bad games. Hawkinson got them, I think, for 2 in week 2. But the bottom line is there are a lot of matchups that favor the Chiefs, but it's just one of those things where you this is an isolation game. You see you know what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Can you help control Mahomes? Just stay in the game and not let Mahomes beat you repeatedly. And we saw that the great thing for Hurts is that he had against Spags' defense. Did he not have over 400 yards in that game?
He had over 400 total yards. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So to me, Jalen has that in his back pocket. He's been against it. Spags threw a lot at him. They defeated it.
Mm-hmm.
And the stunner is the Chiefs ran against them. We didn't bring up Pacheco. Right. They should stonewall him now. I don't worry about Pacheco crushed him in that game, but I don't worry about it now at all.
No, yeah, I have much more faith in this Eagles defense to be able to stop the run. And by the way, the Chiefs run a decent amount. I mean, they are not an all passing like 80% team like they've been running a decent amount. And to your point, they live in 12 and 13 personnel.
Oh,
this is not your typical Chiefs 11 personnel vertical team. They are going to live in 12 and 13, and they're going to get a couple tight ends on the field. And like we just said, Eagles are the worst team in the NFL at defending the tight end.
So on your point, and I turned out to be wrong about this. I swore from everything I was hearing, it would be less 12 and even 13 personnel because they were expecting Sky Moore to break out. Kadarius Toney was with him for a whole offseason. It has not happened at all. So Noah Gray 83 is the athletic tight end behind Kelsey. Blake Bell's been in the league forever. He's a wide tight end. He's an inline tight end. Did he score in the Super Bowl?
Who's that?
Blake Bell. Did he score? Someone out of the blue scored. No,
Sky Moore had a touchdown. Sky Moore and
Sky Moore, yeah. Sky Moore did.
Tony.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tony and Moore did inside the 5, but yeah, the Eagles did it. Hurts had 304 yards passing. Eagles did, as you said, over 400 yards total yards in that game. But the bottom line is, don't let the back-breaking plays happen. If they don't, they're going to be in this game and they could steal it. Yeah, they absolutely could steal this game. I know without Goddard it's going to be harder, but don't forget, Eagles have that portable game plan. The best road team in the National Football League starting in 2021. That means a lot.
Yes, 100%. I'm with you. The key to this game, try to get a turnover or two and you're going to get defensive line pressure. You should. If Mahomes gets out of that pocket, you've got to be really, really big on your keys, on your scramble drill, your plastering. You cannot let this guy kill you on second reaction plays. He's going to get some. You're going to give up some. You can't be just owned all day long by the second reaction plays. So
don't get demoralized. Yeah,
exactly. All right, we'll come back with our picks in a second. I want to remind everybody to check out our friends at phlsportsnation.com. They're enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you check them out at phlsportsnation.com and on Twitter at PHL Sports Nation. Let's pause real quick to hear a word from our friends at Sky Motor Cars.
Sky Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people all over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schiller, make sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
All right, and if you go into Sky Motor Cars out there in Westchester, PA, make sure you tell them Adam and Geoff sent you. You will get a great deal. If not, visit them at SkyMotorCars.com. All right, we mentioned this. According to our friends at MyBookie, Eagles, underdogs for the first time this year, -2.5, a 45.5 total over under there, kind of low. Adam, I will start with you. How do you see this game going?
I got the Chiefs 24. The Eagles 27.
Once again, Adam Caplan picking have you ever picked the Eagles to lose in the last 3 years? Ever?
Well, yes,
ever.
No, but it's funny. I do this spot on WHB in Kansas City on Thursdays. I'm like, I can't remember last time I picked against the Eagles.
Yeah. It's a big homer. No, I'm just kidding.
It's a cottage industry. Yeah. It's a pick it. You're probably going to be right. Now again, I say that. I'm assuming I'm doing that with Roby playing. As Jason and I, was it Jason and I who changed our picks for the Miami game once we found out?
Yes, you guys changed your picks because you were scared.
Well, no, because
it was smart though.
Right, when Xavier Howard's out, of course that means a lot. You know.
Yes.
So that's the way I see it.
All right, say the score again for the people.
27-24 Eagles.
All right, 27-24 Eagles. So that would be a little bit high scoring, but that would be obviously the Eagles cover because they went outright. I am actually, as much as I made fun of you, I'm in tandem with you. Ooh. I have the Eagles winning. I have them winning 26-21. So that is right a little bit on the over. Obviously a cover because they went outright. I do think they're going to get it done. This Chiefs offense, just not crisp, and the Eagles are getting healthy. And I just think I said it. This is the top of the show. Last year's Super Bowl doesn't matter. There were so many questions about it at the press conference this week. It's a different game. Yep. All right. Different teams, different year. But I think this Eagles team needs to beat the Chiefs and Andy Reid, because if they're going to meet again later in the year in the Super Bowl, I don't think you want that feeling of we don't know how to beat this team, right? You don't want, like, we lost to them in the Super Bowl. We lost to them at home a couple of years ago. We lost to them this year in Arrowhead. Like, they haven't beaten Andy Reid. And since Jalen Hurts hasn't been here, they haven't beaten Andy Reid. This would be 0-3 if they lose this game. So I just feel like they can't let the Chiefs keep getting the mental advantage over them. So it's big for this reason. You got to win this game.
Yeah, we're going to talk to Flip. I forgot that John coached with the Eagles at Kansas City. What the crowd's like at Arrowhead. So we'll get his thoughts on. So yeah, there you go. We'll update this Monday morning. We're going to update the weather for sure. But the good see if Jurgens plays, so that means the Eagles' run game will be better, and you could see a lot of Grindwell in that game.
A lot of Grindwell. All right, good stuff. That's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. As always, we thank you for flying with us inside the birds.